The emergency professionals in this region have been working hard for several days. There have been new developments in the weather over the last 24 hours. Some of those developments overnight include an expansion of the size of the storm. There's some 350 mile radius of winds, which makes this a very big storm. It is of hurricane force, and most of the models predict increasing intensity with storm surges throughout a large part of the Texas Gulf Coast. As a result of that, this morning, conferring with emergency professionals in the region and looking at the best meteorology, there are certain decisions which have been made. I will discuss some of those decisions. Judge Emmett will discuss others. I'd ask the citizens of this community and those within the media to try to make sure that those who don't have access to this broadcast or radio or transmission, that you know have access to our recommendations and that we give at this briefing this morning. Employees and employers. We recommend that all employers do not require their employees to be at work tomorrow unless they're in certain essential functions. Now, we recognize that ultimately the decision is going to be made by the employer concerning whether the employees need to be required to go to work. But we strongly recommend that employers, in order to keep their employees safe and our communities safe and our freeways clear of traffic, look at the responsibilities of those employees and only require those to go to work where they are performing essential services. Essential services include pharmacies, those who sell food, those who sell gasoline and diesel, those involved in healthcare, those involved in aviation and other transportation needs. So we have a number of people that are essential. Not only do they have important jobs, but they have particularly important jobs during times in which there may be people evacuating in parts of this community, and we need your work and we value your work too. And employers should take into account that some of those essential services need to go on. In addition, there will be some announcements made by Judge Emmett today and other local authorities within this region that may concern recommended or mandatory evacuations in certain areas. We ask employers take into account those recommendations by those in charge by law in this region for making those recommendations, not to penalize those employees who are not in essential functions for heeding those recommendations. The city of Houston tomorrow will be closed in most of its functions, although our employees who have been designated as essential will be required to report to their office or to report at home to be on call. You know who you are according to the policies that we have implemented from the city, and that will include, for the benefit of the public, our police, fire, EMS, public works, solid waste, and aviation, actually the majority of city employees. Our municipal courts will be closed. If you're called to jury duty within the municipal court system, you need not show up. We recommend that all school districts who have not made a decision to close tomorrow do so immediately. All school districts that are in the region, you can see by the various maps, the meteorological maps, those areas that may be at risk. In addition, we would ask that school administrators listen carefully to the announcement to be made by Judge Emmett concerning the evacuation areas, as well as announcements which have been made by other local officials in other areas within our region. And if there is a young person that young person or their families are in a area that is recommended for evacuation before tomorrow, then you have procedures which will allow that family to comply with the directions of local authorities. Let's make sure that we communicate well with each other, and I give you Judge Emmett, who will talk about the evacuation areas. Judge.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Of course, the information now is that we could be facing a storm surge of 15 feet on Galveston Bay. That storm surge would inundate certain parts of Harris County, so it's very important that we go ahead and evacuate those parts of the county, starting with people with special needs. For years and months, we've asked people to register by dialing 211 to get on the registry, so that if you cannot evacuate yourself, either because of medical reasons or you just don't have the ability to do it, then the proper jurisdiction will come to your home, pick you up, and make sure that the state of Texas evacuates you to a safe area. For those who have not registered by now, if you're in one of the zip codes that I will announce in a moment, you too can still be evacuated under the special need category, but now you have to dial 311. Even if you're not registered, if you're in one of the zip codes that I'm about to announce and you cannot evacuate yourself, dial 311. Those who have already registered will be contacted. You don't need to call us. We will call you, and we will arrange for your transportation out of the area. For the general population in these zip codes that I'm about to announce, we are recommending that you go ahead and make plans to evacuate, and then we will be calling for a mandatory evacuation of these zip codes beginning at noon today. Now, obviously, as the mayor mentioned, if there are children in school right after noon, you can wait till later in the day, but we strongly urge you to evacuate before tomorrow if you're in any of the following zip codes. The zip codes are 77058, 77059, 77062, 77520, 77546, 77571, 77586, and 77598. Those are what we refer to as zones A and B in Harris County. They are the areas that are subject to a storm surge of up to 15 feet. And it's very important that people understand that with that type of storm surge, we're not talking about gently rising water. We're talking about a surge that will come into your home quite possibly. So it's important that you evacuate. For the general population, again, the mandatory evacuation will begin at noon today. We ask that you wait until noon if at all possible. We still have folks in Galveston and other low-lying areas that are trying to go through our community, and it's important to make sure that this is a phased evacuation. These are the only zip codes that we are talking about evacuating. These are the zip codes that are in danger of storm surge. For everyone else, we are still saying, please shelter in place, or to use the Texas expression, hunker down. You're going to be facing hurricane-force winds. You're going to be facing strong rain, but you're still safer staying in place, sheltering in place, unless if you live in a mobile home and you're going to be in an area that is going to be facing these winds, by all means, we recommend you leave.